Father, I just thank you that you gather us together in your arms to be held by you. And I just feel like I can sense your heart right now, just wanting us to know that we're held for all time. You've never, ever let us go. We've always been within your hands, held close to your heart, ever whispering truth into our being, combating lies on our behalf. Father, I just thank you that you've set us up for a glorious and hopeful future. And I just thank you that our days are surrounded with plenty. Amen. Happy Father's Day.
Thanks.
Autumn said thanks. Because she's a dad. We are going to Isaiah 53. Hi, Amy. I've been thinking about just like different moves of God throughout time.
Power on.
It gets me every time, that speaker.
53 or 63?
Isaiah 53. But I've been thinking about different moves of God like throughout time. And I realized that every single one of them began with one simple step of obedience that was surrounded by rejection. Isn't that interesting? You can trace it back. You can look throughout history. You can look throughout every story in the Bible, and you can find rejection surrounding every great move of God. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. And we know that like rejection surrounded Jesus' life, and here's proof. Isaiah 53. Who has truly believed our revelation? To whom will Yahweh reveal his mighty arm? He sprouted up like a tender plant before the Lord, like a root in parched soil. He possessed no distinguishing beauty or outward splendor to catch our attention. Nothing special in his appearance to make us desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of deep sorrows, who was no stranger to suffering and grief. We hid our faces from him in disgust and considered him a nobody, not worthy of respect. This is God we're talking about. He's surrounded by rejection throughout his entire life. So it made me like think about some of the different parts of scripture that talk about God preparing to do something big. And of course we can look at Moses, right? I'm sorry, not Moses, Noah. We can look at Noah's life and see this happening, right? So God tells Noah to go and build an ark, a floating device, because water's going to fall from the sky, right? And we know, of course, on this side of things that this has never happened before, but we understand and can comprehend because we know what rain is. These people did not. They did not know what rain was. And so they're like looking at Noah as if he's lost his mind. They're thinking this man is crazy. He's gone off the deep end. But his simple act of obedience created a space to house him and his family and all of the animal kingdom. And his obedience brought about promise, right? And I think that the picture of what happened when God flooded the earth with rain, like it's a foreshadowing of what was to come, right? Like he did away with humanity outside of Noah and his family. But it's such a beautiful picture of what it is that was coming. So what Jesus did also flooded the earth, but with new creation, right? It's both like this divine do-over. But it's just like in Habakkuk 2:14, where it says that the knowledge of the glory of the Lord would cover the whole earth like the water covers the sea. That's us. We are the knowledge of the glory of the Lord that will cover the entire earth, just like the waters cover the sea. Does that make sense? That's us. So the picture of Noah and his boat and the flooding that happened, that's the exact thing that is happening now. Like God is covering the entire earth with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord through us. And we can look at the story of Noah and the rain that fell for 40 days and 40 nights and look at it and see how it wiped out everything, right? Everything. So we can look at that and feel the intensity of that. But for some reason, we're limited when we're looking from our perspective now and looking out and going, oh my gosh, it's happening. He's covering the whole earth with the knowledge of his perfection that is us, with the knowledge of his glory, which we're releasing. Like he has chosen to partner with us to release everything that is his on the earth today. What? That's amazing. But none of it happened without rejection surrounding it. So let's get back to Isaiah really quick. Let's go to verse 4. The subtitle of this one is The Sin Bearer Servant. I like to refer to it as the sin collector because that's what he is. Jesus, the great sin collector. That got me in trouble one Sunday. But he's the sin collector. It's what he does.
Remember that.
Yet he was the one who carried our sicknesses and endured the torment of our sufferings. We viewed him as one who was being punished for something he himself had done, as one who was struck down by God and brought low. This is rejection at its finest. So the people that walked the earth with Jesus during this time, they're rejecting him. They're going, no, like he had to have done something wrong. He did something to bring on this wrath, right? Who does that remind you of? Job? Do you remember this is the ongoing 30-chapter argument Job and his friends are having? What did you do, Job? You had to have done something. It's the same thing. And then what happens at the end of the book? God shows up in all of his glory, right? This is who I am. This is what I do. And it's all goodness, right? And so, listen, we've established that we belong on the slip and slide, right? We've established that we are seated in heavenly places where the slip and slide is, right? Listen, rejection does not exist where the slip and slide is. Okay? That's not where rejection is. Rejection is fallen nature responding to an unknown reality. Rejection is the response of fallen humanity to an unknown reality. So I want you to think about a time where you've experienced rejection in your life, and I want you to begin to understand and see it differently. You can like even center yourself in this saying. See yourself surrounded by that rejection all over again, because I want to empower you for a minute. This is so cool. Our reality is in heavenly places. This rejection is coming from fallen humanity. What happened to our fallen nature? Crucified, dead, buried, right? Rejection is the response from the grave, because rejection cannot understand what we have actually been brought into. Isn't that so empowering for you? If you don't feel it yet, it's okay. You can sit in it. and let that just kind of like surround you. Just like let it swirl around you, because this is so empowering. It changes my response to rejection, because now I'm looking at it and going, oh, they just don't know. You know what that reminds me of? Jesus. In Luke 23:34, the soldiers are pounding his wrists into a cross with very thick nails. And in the footnotes, Brian Simmons actually says it's likely that this was a repeated prayer that he kept on saying over and over again, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. And you could probably even insert, Father, forgive them because they have no idea what they're rejecting. Father, forgive them because this is coming from a different place in them. This is coming from that mindset of there's distance between them and you. Rejection has no comprehension of sonship. Jesus on repeat, Father, forgive them. I'm sorry, but there's no other rejection that you're going to experience that touches this. He's despised and rejected. He's God being nailed to a cross. And he is saying, Father, forgive them. If there were ever a time during the entire crucifixion scene that the Father looked away, this would have been the moment where Jesus is saying, don't look on this, God, because this isn't who they are. Can't you feel his declaration in this moment? This isn't just a trite prayer that Jesus is repeating over and over again. He's going, Father, this isn't them. This isn't them. He's interceding on our behalf. It's like, if you want to know, God, what they look like, look at me, because this is what they look like. He refused to allow himself to identify with humanity through rejection's eyes. That's good. Isn't that awesome? I feel like that's so empowering. I hope you're feeling empowered. All right. Verse 5. But it was because of our rebellious deeds that he was pierced, and because of our sins that he was crushed. He endured the punishment that made us completely whole. And in his wounding, we found our healing. Like wayward sheep, we have all wandered astray. Each of us has turned from God's paths and chosen our own way. Even so, Yahweh laid the guilt of our every sin upon him. And this is stunning. It's stunning to me all over again that Jesus would have done all of this, that he was capable of doing all of this. I've had a hard week, a really hard week. I sat in rejection this week. I allowed myself to be completely human this week. There really wasn't much new creation going on this week. What Jesus did, I can't comprehend. I cannot comprehend what he did. To be going through the act of being maliciously accused of something he never did. He never once sinned. He never once fell short. And the only thing that his only response to this whole thing is, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. This isn't them. Wow. That's not what my response was this week. Not at all. I was like, Father, get them. I'm just being honest. Was it a right response? No. But I also can tell you this, that if I wouldn't have touched down within my humanity, I wouldn't have had this revelation. So I'm kind of thankful for it. He knows we're fragile. He knows we're frail. My friend Bob says, the Father loves folly. So even when we touch down in our old nature and we resurrect that beast, he's still going, you're mine. Because what he hears concerning us is, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I like to say this in various ways. Father, forgive them. It's not who she is. Father, don't look at that side of her because that's not who she is. Let's pull her back up to the slipping side because that's who she is. So when you're starting to feel that touchdown in places that are dark, I want you to hear. I want you to hear Jesus' voice. Father, don't look at that person. Don't look at that side of them. It's not who they are. Let's pull them up higher. Let's draw them in closer. That's what I want us to hear. Because that's your reality. Remember, rejection lives in a reality that cannot touch the slip inside. We have a choice that we have to make every single day. Where are we going to live from? You can play on the slip and slide all day long. Or you can slip around in the muck and the mire. No choice. Either way, you're loved. All right. We'll continue. But I really don't know where I was. Oh, yes, I do. 7, verse 7. Thank you, Vince, for the head nods. He was oppressed and harshly mistreated. Still, he humbly submitted, refusing to defend himself. Oh, that's hard. He was brought like a gentle lamb to be slaughtered, like a silent sheep before his shearers. He didn't even open his mouth. By coercion and with the perversion of justice, he was taken away. And who could have imagined his future? He was cut down in the prime of his life for the rebellion of his own people. He was struck down in their place. They gave him a grave among criminals, but he ended up instead in a rich man's tomb, although he had done no violence nor spoken deceitfully. Even though it pleased Yahweh to crush him with grief, he will be restored to favor. After his soul becomes a guilt offering, he will gaze upon his many offspring and prolong his days. Don't miss this. After his soul becomes a guilt offering, he will gaze upon his many offspring and prolong his days. How on earth will he prolong his days? He is actually talking about his days on the earth. How is it that Jesus will prolong his days? Could it be through you? What? Gosh. You guys, this is the gospel. This is what Jesus died for. When he was pierced in his side, new creation was birthed as him. He gave up his life so that we could all live as him, so that the glory of the Lord could cover the whole earth like the waters cover the sea. This is amazing. Tim Wright, he's a worship leader, and he has a song about this, and there's a portion in the song where he stops to explain Habakkuk 2:14. It was a revelation that God had given him, and it was just a simple question and answer session between him and God, and he was saying, Tim, how do you separate the waters from the sea? And I was like, whoa. I mean, that should be kind of like a obvious thing, right? But we don't actually go there. You can't. Just like you can't separate the knowledge of the glory of the Lord from us. It's the same concept. We cannot be separated. It's the same thing. Just like you cannot remove the waters from the sea, you can't remove the knowledge of the glory of the Lord from us. Wow. I'm wow this morning. I need to stop doing this because I forget where I'm at. Let's just back up. After his soul becomes a guilt offering, he will gaze upon his many offspring and prolong his days. And through him, Yahweh's deepest desires will be fully accomplished. Who is Yahweh's deepest desire? Could it be you? Yes, Christy? Wow, we are his deepest desires. After the great anguish of his soul, he will see light and be fully satisfied. By knowing him, the righteous one, my servant will make many to be righteous, because he, their sin bearer, carried away their sin. I'm sorry, but if God himself carries away your sin, our sin, I don't understand how we have a sin problem. How can you undo anything that God has done? To consider ourselves sinners is blasphemous. I'm sorry, but it is. It's not okay. It's not okay for us to have a sin consciousness. It's not who he's made us to be. If God carried it away, I can't resurrect it. I'm just not that powerful. And neither are you. We have to make some higher agreements here. Seriously, we do. So I, Yahweh, will assign him a portion among a great multitude, and he will triumph and divide the spoils of victory with his mighty ones. Us. All because he poured out his life blood to death. He was counted among the worst of sinners, yet he carried sin's burden for many and intercedes for those who are rebels. Isn't that amazing? That is amazing. It's amazing. What he has done cannot be undone. You have been set up to carry glory and release it on the earth today, and there's nothing you can do about it. You are freed from sin, and there's nothing you can do about it. Come on. We have to choose to live from above, though. We have to. We have the option every single day which reality we're going to choose. We can be seated in heavenly places, or we can be seated among the rejection and everything else that is surfacing in our lives. But the thing is one is living and breathing, and the other one is grave life. But it's a choice. And it's so much more empowering to be able to see the rejection that is coming towards us as, oh, they just don't know who they are. They just can't comprehend what's going on. Shine all the brighter. Not to provoke any kind of jealousy, not to provoke any kind of strife, but to be the glory of the knowledge of the Lord spilling out on the earth today. Every great move of God started with one simple act of obedience that was surrounded by rejection. The difference is in the reality. Do you want to live in rejection's reality or in the slip and slide reality? I'm going to pray. Oh, Father, I know that you have called us to do big, mighty things, things that are way beyond our comprehension, things that make us feel nervous, things that make us feel uncomfortable. God, I just thank you that we are the rocks that will cry out anyway, that we are the ones that you can break open because we'll spill out anyway. God, I just thank you that you're teaching us to live from higher places, that you're showing us where our reality is, that we are seated in heavenly places. And right now, I just declare that that will be our experience this entire week, that we will not wane, that we will not step down from our enthroned places, that we will live and breathe from on high, that we will rule and reign from on high in our seated places, and that we'll enjoy every single moment of it. God, that we would learn to do what you're doing, to see what you're doing and do it. That we would be brave and courageous, that we would say yes to being broke open. God, I just thank you that you continue to refine us, that even when we have weeks that are horrible, you continue to refine us, that you promote us anyway, that you bring us into your presence anyway, that you prove that we're being held anyway. And to rejection's voice, we just declare that your eyes will be open, that you will experience a new reality too. Because the sons and daughters of glory are rising up and taking their place. Father, I just thank you for everything that you're doing in us and through us on the earth today. We love you. We love being yours. Amen.